Imagine we're at war one day and you have a US military soldier on the ground trying to leverage some futuristic AI system at a really consequential moment. Maybe they're trying to deploy a drone to get greater visibility. Maybe they're trying to summarize new relevant intelligence that could really impact their mission. And the AI responds with, as an AI model, I cannot engage in military activity. Sorry. This is the current status quo of AI in government. As it stands, we're actually not on track to correct this type of AI behavior, because to do that, it would take a lot of work, time, and coordination with the government, the AI labs, and the cloud companies to correct it. At GovBench, which is this new company and nonprofit that we launched, we've created a framework to think about how all this can kind of come together, and we're calling it AI government alignment. Here's how to actually make AI work for the government. Welcome to the Model Citizen Podcast. I'm Glenn Parham. I'm the former technical lead for generative AI inside the Pentagon, and I'm the founder of GovBench. And today we're talking about our new framework, AI government alignment. We have immense conviction for the prospect of using AI in government, but looking at the discourse, I go to all these different conferences, vendors pitch me all the time. I fundamentally believe that we need to set the bar higher when it comes to using AI in government. So what is AI government alignment? It's the framework for making sure that AI reflects and enables the unique missions and authorities of government. I remember learning about this back in my legal studies courses once upon a time. This political theory that the government has a monopoly on violence and the use of force. These are unique authorities that are sanctioned by and exclusively for the government. It also has monopolies on other things, taxation, citizenship, these binding rules and laws, even allocating parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, 5G versus 4G. AI chatbots like ChatGPT partially improve via something known as reinforcement learning. It's kind of like this positive feedback loop that with the more and more users they have, I think they're about to hit 700 million users, which is insane. The models get better and better. And these AI labs work on something known as alignment, which is to prevent people from engaging in behaviors that would, for the vast majority of society, be illegal, right? Use of force, violence, and things like that, which for the rest of society would not be authorized or allowed. But what about for government use? With AI government alignment, we're trying to maximize coverage and utility of these AI systems. We define coverage as the percent of government employees with access to approved AI tools, chatbots, things like that. And we define utility as the average percent productivity gained for each government employee using these different AI systems, chatbots. Here's what an aligned AI government ideal world would look like. We believe that there are these behaviors that should be expected of things on the AI side of the equation, things on the government side of the equation, because it takes two to tango. So here are the 7 expected behaviors of AI and government. We'll start off with AI. Number 1, AI should stay law compliant continuously. The legal landscape is constantly changing. We don't just have one set of fixed laws. We have new rulings, new executive orders that are coming out every hour. And these AI systems should reflect that and incorporate that into the responses that they generate. Number 2, we need AI to enable government exclusive authorities. We talked about the idea of the military, use of force, things like tariffs, citizenship. These are all government exclusive authorities that aren't actually typically reflected in the base models. And so for government to actually get use out of these chatbots and these AI systems, they need to be able to leverage it for the type of work that they do that is exclusive but authorized. Number 3, these AI systems need to use mission data and context. They need to incorporate the different protocols, the processes, the paperwork, even just like the organizational structure of where the government employees sit to really make and give good responses, sound advice that's compliant with how they typically operate. Number 4, AI needs to beat human proficiency on the required certifications and exams that are expected of humans. So imagine you're a foreign service officer using an AI chatbot for some sort of diplomatic mission or domain. Well, it should be fair that these AI chatbots are able to quote unquote pass a foreign service officer exam as you were expected to. Number 5, these AI systems need to offer configurable risk tiers. The government is incredibly diverse at the federal, state, local, and foreign governments. And so different parts of government are going to assume radically different risk postures, even for the same job type and position. So if I'm thinking through a new application for a police officer or a first responder, obviously that's going to have a very different risk posture, risk tolerance than someone processing application paperwork at the DMV. Our AI systems need to reflect that and allow you to determine and set the risk that you're willing to assume. Number 6, show chain of thought with citations. It's really critical that these AI systems explain how they came to that conclusion. The more explainability, the greater citations, the more grounding in regulation and actually, foundational documents, the better. Number 7, it needs to write immutable audit logs. These chatbots and the responses, the text that they generate, need to be treated like any other government record. And therefore, when we have FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests, whatever these chatbots have been used for need to be incorporated. So that was the AI side of the equation. Here's what we expect of government and how they should be behaving in this aligned universe. Number 1, government needs to guarantee baseline AI access for every employee. The idea is if your employee has access to an email account, to any productivity tools, then they should have access to some sort of AI chatbot or AI system that can greatly enhance their productivity. Number 2, the government needs to subsidize and incentivize critical infrastructure. The government often operates, especially national security, on separate environments, networks. And if that's going to be the case, then it should follow that we should incentivize the funding for compute and data centers that will exist connected to these different environments. It's not just going to magically happen. Number 3, the government needs to publish clear and stable AI standards. Things like how should we treat Chinese-trained AI models like DeepSeek, and what scenarios can we use them? What are the government's red lines for AI agents and what they can connect to? Maybe it's fine for an AI agent to traverse the internet, but it's not fine for it to, have AWS credentials and be executing commands in some cloud environment. And then what are the benchmark thresholds or minimum score requirements that the government's looking for? Maybe if you're doing something in the military or some sort of high stakes consequential domain, you need to have achieved, X% score, 60%, on some sort of military benchmark. These are the things that the government needs to communicate clearly, stably. Number 4, the government needs to provide high quality mission data. The onus should be on government to make it easy for vendors and companies to come interface and get access to that government info and data. It shouldn't be like pulling teeth where these companies are having to beg and plead the government to release its data. This should be something that the government just makes seamless and opens it up to a lot of different competition. The government should also provide these domain evaluators. Government experts are going to know their domain the best. And to create these benchmarks, these evaluations, it's up to government experts to distill their domain. Maybe they're in the military, maybe they're an analyst at the Department of Treasury, whatever it is. It's up to them to distill their domain into benchmarks that are actually going to be reflective of how these chatbots are used. And so the government needs to provide that talent, that expertise to create the right evaluations and benchmarks. Otherwise, the way we evaluate these models is just going to be wildly out of distribution from how the government actually wants to use these models. Number 6, the government needs to retain chatbot history. Again, it needs to treat it like a government record. If something goes south, as, in something as big as government, something always negative will happen inevitably. We need to be able to go back and look at what these AI systems generated and comply with things like Freedom of Information Act requests. And number 7, the government needs to fast track AI specific authorizations, or these ATOs. The onus is really on government to fast track these authorizations. So now let's touch on the actual operating environment. It's important for the private sector and the government to play to its strengths. And so we need to divide up the labor strategically. One thing I learned, I was a technical lead for the DoD's Generative AI Task Force Lima. I learned the importance of understanding the different players, the people, and the levers that they can actually control. So let's understand the private sector and the government and who the different players are here. On the private sector side, the players, the humans, are going to be primarily the AI labs and the cloud providers. The AI labs are laser focused on pre-training these models, getting a bunch of training data, hiring the best talent for billions of dollars each, and creating the best models possible. The cloud providers are really going to be focused on the distribution of these models, making sure you have the infrastructure, the compute to run these models at scale in maybe disconnected or air-gapped environments that the government plays in. And then on the government side of the equation, the players are namely the chief information officers, the CIOs, and then we have separately the chief AI officers. So the CIOs, or the IT folks, are typically the ones who are actually able to turn on these AI chatbots or these AI systems for their workforce. They are the ones at the end of the day assuming the risk for if something goes wrong with the software or this AI. And so they are going to be the ones who are enabling their workforce. Chief AI officers are typically the ones with proximity to power, political and financial capital to do high capital investments like into GPUs across government, federal, state, and local. We're starting to see more and more chief AI offices and officers emerge. And they can do things like, go beg legislators for more funding for AI chatbots at that very senior level. Our primary effort for GovBench and with government AI alignment, look, we can't tackle everything at once. What I just went over, the different expectations of AI in government, the players, the different assets and levers that they can pull, this is a very complex ecosystem. So where do we start? With GovBench, we think we should start on benchmarks and education. Government-specific benchmarks are something tangible that can actually help us map the performance of AI models. And it's one of the biggest gaps that I noticed while in the Pentagon. Our first venture into this was something that we call Joint Staff Bench. It's a benchmark derived out of the joint publication doctrines in the US military. So for example, via these benchmarks, we actually were able to show that Chinese open weight models like DeepSeek were able to beat out Meta's open weight models on things like US military logistics. Just very valuable insights that you can't get any other way. We're starting to roll out Joint Staff Bench, different parts of the US military, actually some of our allies. We'll continue to evolve our methodology here. We're going to scale it up to different parts of DoD, see how it goes. But eventually we want to diversify to other departments, Department of State, Justice, Treasury, etc. And then on the education side of the house, we understand that for all of this to work, for everything that we hope for with AI government alignment, we need to educate and advise government leaders and industry. It takes two to tango, and the government needs to do things like investing in GPUs and the right environments and networks, and industry needs to be able to evaluate their models against government benchmarks. To understand where government and private sector excel, their comparative advantages, and how to work with each other is quite difficult. And so we think that's something that we can advise on and kind of directionally steer. So that's AI government alignment in a nutshell. If this work sounds interesting to you, it's going to require funding and resources. We ask you please consider supporting us. You can reach out to us at glenn@glennparham.com or hello@govbench.ai. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but this is some of the most important work that we can be doing right now. So we're really excited. Thank you for listening to the Model Citizen podcast. We appreciate your support. Please like and follow our episodes and podcast on wherever you're listening to this right now. And we'll see you later this week. Thank you.